due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We thank Him, we praise Him, we glorify Him. We beseech Him to send His choicest salutations upon His most beloved, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, and upon all those who choose to tread His path until the last day. Earlier this morning, I was in my apartment, and my wife was doing some work around the house. I'd come in while she was cleaning some dishes from the gym we have in our basement, and she said, "Would you like some water?" And I said, "Sure, I would love some." Because she had just been cleaning with hot water, the water that she gave to me was very warm in the cup. And so I drank it, and as she turned away, my hand gestured to just pour it out to get some cold water. And instantaneously, I started to think about all of my sisters and brothers in Gaza who would do anything to drink even this hot cup of water right now. May Allah grant them ease. And within that moment, I started to think for myself, what really is my role and capacity within the circumstance that we find ourselves in? The notion that comes that is Quranic, a promise that is true, because Allah's promises are always true. That He is with the oppressed, He is with those that are weak. That victory in and of itself is not necessarily what we think about it in very limited capacities, but victory with Allah is both in a worldly endeavor, but also in terms of the world that comes next. May Allah grant ease to our brothers and sisters in Palestine. May He make us a generation that sees a free Palestine in our lifetime. And may He allow for us assembled here to recognize what our role is in the cultivation of what success and victory actually can be. There's a few different parts of the Quran that I want us to think about in relation to this conversation. And then prior to me getting off of the stage, I'm going to ask you all to join me in dua. One, I want us to think about Surah Al-Balad, that a lot of us have probably memorized, some of us are probably aware of, if not memorized in the last juz of the Quran. La uqsimu bihadha al-balad wa anta hillum bihadha al-balad. And you can just look up on your phone Surah Al-Balad so you can follow along with it. Quite often in the Quran, what we find when Allah is taking oath by something, the recognition of the value of that oath is deeply attached to the meaning and the verses that come after. So we have a verse that says لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, that indeed humanity was created in a tribulation state, in a state of difficulty. But there's another verse that says وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْن, that we guided you to two najd, two pathways. The najd in Arabic is a tough path to traverse. When you look at the Quran, you want to see it as a text on a whole and not isolate verses in a reductive way that are not necessarily drawing meaning from the text exegetically, but more so eisegetically. Does this make sense? Like tafsir is an exegetical analysis. You take meaning from the text. What a lot of people do today is formulate an argument, and they're more eisegetical. They pick verses to prove what it is that they want it to mean, rather than taking meaning from it. You can turn a book into whatever you want to at the end of the day. But when you can see the verses on a whole and understand how they relate to one another, فَأَلْهَمَهَا فَجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, the previous chapter is saying, giving us an indication that we have capacity to be towards what is good and what is not good. May Allah always make us from the righteous. But I want you to think about these verses all together. Because when you have a sanctified city, as Surah Al-Balad is taking an oath by, and the Prophet ﷺ's presence is being acknowledged in this sanctified city, and you have now pathways that are being described to you, linked to verses that come before, giving an understanding of what is a state of taqwa and what is a state of just wickedness. The Prophet's presence in this city is meant to now bring light to what is morally good and ethical. And the entire understanding of a sacred space, a sanctified space, a sanctified city, a house of Allah, a city like Mecca, a city like Medina, a city like Jerusalem, may Allah end the occupation that is taking place there. The whole idea with sanctified spaces is that they are meant to give us now insight on what it is that is good versus what it is that is not good. And if you've ever been to Palestine before, you can undoubtedly attest to the reality that is the goodness of the Palestinian people. The light that they possess, the reality of their resilience, the recognition of how it is that they generously demonstrate hospitality again and again and again. When we went to Palestine as a community right before COVID hit, one of the days it was raining outside. And we went to a masjid, and the Imam there, his name was Khalid also. He took us to the top floor, and he gave to us water and dates and asked us where we were from. And then he said, "What is it that you are doing here?" And we told him where we were, and he said, "I have always wanted to go and pray in the Haram in Jerusalem." And he said, "Last Ramadan, I went with 3 of my friends to try to go, and they didn't let us in. And they killed one of my friends." And as he's telling us this and we're hearing his story, he is still so happy that we can go to pray in a place that he should have no reason as to why he cannot pray there, but he loves for his brother what he loves for himself, embodying the deen, not just in a rhetorical way, but in a lived way. The adaptation of these is what we want to think about. When we think about Palestine's promise, you understand that Allah gives to you examples in a sea of darkness, what is undoubtedly going to always be real nur, real light. This is the purpose of sacred cities. This is the purpose of sacred spaces. To understand it within our context, if you walk into your local masjid, you go into spaces where Muslims frequent that are divided now not in ways that are meaningful, but rooted in segmentation of race, culture, and class. I went to pray the Jummah prayer in the masjid in Jerusalem. And the Imam, when he descended from the mimbar, you saw people of all backgrounds coming to the mimbar, men and women alike. They didn't say that you are a woman, you got to go stick in a basement somewhere. They didn't say that you are black, this isn't a place for you. They didn't say you're a convert, we're going to only joyously scream when you take shahada, but let you eat on the day of Eid by yourself in a diner. It's a sacred space, the city of Jerusalem. It's meant to give you an indication of who the divine is. One God that is for all humanity till the end of time. A book that is meant to be for each and every person. When the entire world is recognized as being a masjid, as the hadith says, it doesn't just mean that you can pray anywhere that is out there only, but what it also means is that Muslims can pray anywhere, which also means that people can be Muslim anywhere. And this is what a place like Palestine shows to us. When the Jummah prayer was done that day, the Palestinian people were standing in the courtyard of the Haram, doing nothing to bother anyone. The soldiers came and started to just beat them and strike them down. The medics came to help them, and the medics that were coming to help them, they started to beat them too. And they still get up to pray. In the rubble of buildings, they call the adhan for Jummah, giving to you an understanding of what it means to be in a place where the recognition of true success and victory is not materialistic gain or worldly possession. That true richness is not having an abundance of things of the earth, but true richness is having a richness of your soul. That these fools can seek to captivate somebody on a physical level, but they are not taking these people's hearts. And so you draw from them a sense of understanding of what it actually means to be a believer, a mu'min. and to try to make sense of it, and in the midst of things that make no sense, that they are still striving, still moving forward. Nobody is taking away from them what it is that they possess, that is their most beautiful possession, the inside of their hearts. You can look through the Quran to be able to find now answers to this question about what we call victory. You look at Surah An-Nur and you want to see what Allah says in terms of what will yield victory and how we all can play a role in this. It talks to you in its verses about the need to be people of faith, to perform your prayers, to give your zakah, to be people who command to what is good and forbid what is wrong. These are things that are inwardly subjective decisions that you have to make. At this moment in time, you have to understand that your Fajr prayer is not just for you. That the performance of your dua is not just about whether or not you are going to get up at the time of sunrise for your sake or not. But you understand with a deep recognition that there is a difference between just creed and faith. You can't be Muslim just because you dress how somebody else dresses, or you eat how someone else eats, or you talk how someone else talks. It is not an inherited religion. It's a discursive theology. You have to be able to explain why you believe in it, and belief is in your heart. You have to be able to think, what is the conviction I have within me? And that faith is one capacity of victory. A second that we find in Surah Al-An'am, Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about the necessity of us being unified as a community in order for us to have that sense of victory. To not be divided on things that make no sense. If we right now were to look around in this room and you see the diversity that exists within Muslim experience, I want you to think about how it is that in the city we live in, there are 1 million Muslims strong, 200 masjids. And where is it that people are together? You think about every reason as to why someone might be separated, someone might be divided, where it is that we create factions that make no sense. How many times has somebody of a different race eaten dinner in your home? Think about it. Think about when you break fast, you have iftar. Who gets the blessing of being able to break fast with you in your spaces? How many of you have people in your lives that you know that they have families that would never let them get married to someone of a different culture? If we were to just think about statistically in this room, based off of statistics, 1 out of every 4 people, women, experience abuse in some type of form in their life. Your prophet is described, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, lam yadrib Rasulullahi imra'atan wala ghulaman wala waladan qat, that the messenger of God never struck a woman or a servant or a child ever. Where is there unity when in our own spaces there is abuse and oppression? Where is there unity when there is division based off of race, ethnicity, and class? When there are people who don't have food to eat in the streets that you walk in quite often. When the spaces that we traverse are not spaces that are sanctified the way Palestine is sanctified, where we have recognition of what it means to be a place that anyone can walk into. Who cares how big the dome is in your masjid? If there are people who come to frequent it that go home at night and beat their children. This is not unity. And to remedy and to bring victory necessitates understanding how we recognize the lived experiences of each and every one of us. And to really be those who hold on tight to the rope of Allah as the Quran commands us to. And then the third that we take from Surah Al-Anfal, that you have to be ready. You have to be prepared. You have to be in a place where you utilize your strengths, your talents with organized understandings. Organized evil will always triumph over disorganized righteousness. This is truth whether we accept it or not. And we're in a place right now where even just in the room that we are seated in, there is every skill set, every credential, there is no shortage of wealth whatsoever. Why is it that Muslims are afraid to speak what their voices want to be ushering into the world at the idea that they would lose a job? Those of you who are affluent and influential, run your own companies, are leadership CEOs, why are you not telling these young Muslims that if you get fired by that fool, I will hire you? No way, shape, or form, any doubt. Why are you not in a place where we are supporting one another strategically as best as we can? Running around right now in a place where the realities of what this world is about knock us down again and again and again. Did you think it wasn't an anti-black world? Did you think that because you have been put on a pedestal as a model minority, they might treat you differently? Did you think that just because you were given a few dollars, that means you would be protected from what it is that this society tells you it is built on again and again and again? You got to take a breath, as the Quran says. Understand faith, become unified, and then tap in interdisciplinary modes with strategy to become organized, to say, how do we take on this evil as best as we can? Otherwise, you're just going to run around in circles, exhausting yourselves, tiring yourselves. And in New York City, this should be the city where everyone is convening in moments like this, putting aside their differences and saying, what are we building with a recognition that even if this evil stops, may Allah bring peace to the people of Palestine. There's going to be a need for us to think about what it looks like 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. This is what Surah Al-Anfal is saying. You were given spiritual gifts. How are you using them with strategy? What is the advantage of 1,000 of us coming today on a Sunday to hear what the Quran says if we're not going to actually take it as guidance and live by it? And so some of us in this room have to be those who rise in a sea of darkness, to be the source of light that people are in need of, and to understand it in the ways that our brothers and sisters across the board are reliant upon us to recognize that it might not be that the ailment is elsewhere and we as the body are feeling pain because of somebody else's difficulties. But you shift the paradigm and you say to yourself, maybe I'm what's causing illness to the body on a whole. Maybe I've become so deeply fixated in what the false realities that this world promises me are my pursuit. That my success is based off of how much of the world that I acquire. Sometimes in order for you to have, somebody else has to have not. We can't be in that place anymore. And so as a collective, when you look around at the people who are here, I see beauty, I see light, I see potential. But you got to be able to give up your nights and weekends, sit in a place where you're part of a team, be unified and not only be there if your ideas are the ones that are only listened to. Otherwise, you go and build your own masjid down the street. And you know this is a story across cities in the country. Makes no sense. And Shaitan's strategies are for the long term. And so what he can put into your heart 5 years ago, 10 years ago, to say, I'm going to literally build my own place a block away. You now see the challenges that come up. We don't want to do this anymore. We should not let the sacrifices of our sisters and brothers in Palestine be in vain. And the most talented and the most dedicated amongst you all should sit and understand how you can, as a collective, come together to strategize in the way the Quran is telling us to. So that the generation that sits where you sit right now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, they don't have to worry about the same things that we're worried about. And all of it's in the Quran. You don't have to just read it, you have to just actualize it. And so I'm going to ask you to just join me in dua as we end this session and move on to the next. If you want to recenter yourself to the space, let yourself not just be here as a physical body, but be here in every sense of the word. Your spirit, your heart, your mind, your intellect. As we turn to Allah Azza wa Jal, asking Him to accept our dua and to give to us even better than what it is that we are beseeching Him by. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma laka alhamdu kama yanbaghi liwajhika wa azim sultanik. Laka alhamdu hamdan tahiran tayyiban mubarakan fihi la yawmiddin. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad fil awwaleen wa fil akhirin. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barak wa sallama ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma ja'alna min al-mukhlisin. Allahumma ja'alna min al-mukhlisin. Allahumma ja'alna min al-mukhlisin. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah, and beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We gather today at this moment, Ya Rabbi, to pray for our sisters and brothers in Gaza and throughout Palestine. Shower upon them and us your infinite mercy and grant all of us only the best in this world and the best in the next. Grant them freedom, Ya Allah, and make us a generation that witnesses a free Palestine in our lifetime. Guide the footsteps of our brothers and sisters living under this horrific occupation and deepen us in our trust, love, and care for them and each other so that we might come together to help them at this time. Send them only those who will be their helpers and supporters and protect them from any further affliction, anxiety, or anguish. Open their hearts to receive all of the love that we are sending them on this day and envelop them in your divine love always, Ya Wadud. Grant them peace, relax their fears, and remove from them any impediment that keeps them from doing all that they are able to do. The burdens of life sometimes seem too heavy to bear. The anxiety and anguish that sits inside of us feels bigger at times than the world around us. We seem to be surrounded by a darkness that is impenetrable. Today we ask you, Ya Allah, for the sake of our sisters and brothers who need us to be better than our best, to give us courage. Our struggles are real, but your promise is true. Indeed, with hardship there always comes ease. Remove from our hearts any fears or inhibitions and replace them with an ever-increasing boldness to live each moment as best as we can. Fill our hearts with a fire of your love and a desire for nothing less than justice for all. Make us the conveyors of truth, the purveyors of truth, the couriers, the carriers, the upholders of truth. Let us not be swayed by false fulfillment, but make us from amongst those who taste true contentment. Let us never be those who a strong fear of loss in this world or hope of gaining some portion of it keeps us from speaking out and hearing the truth that we yearn for. Keep us from being silent, Ya Allah, when others lie, and help us to never lie to ourselves consciously or unconsciously. Bring people into our lives that we love so much that our love for them moves us to be courageous but never foolish. People whom we love so much that our dedication to their well-being is rooted in wisdom and mindfulness. Make us people who find strength through selflessness, not selfishness, sincerity, and never self-centeredness. Help us to see this world always through hearts that are drawn towards goodness, to silence fear and abolish anxiety, to overpower indifference and break away from greed, to eliminate arrogance and defeat racism, to be bold enough to ask of you to make us those who do only that which is good. Help us to be above what is simply normal and to never compromise on who it is that we are for those who only accept us when we become that which we are not. Forgive us when we unknowingly or knowingly become the cause of unwanted compromise in the lives of those around us or hurt others in ways that at times we don't even realize. Make us those who are never embarrassed by our faith, those who always see our race, our heritage, our class, our gender, our religion as a means of strength and never something that we wish wasn't a part of us. Make us outstanding by not being afraid to stand out, to be firm and resolved in our conviction and values, and any distinction and distinguishing of ourselves to be rooted only in love. Setting ourselves apart does not mean we have to be distant from other hearts, and help us to carry you, Ya Allah, in our hearts always. Help us to never fear the path of truth for the lack of people walking on it, and bless us with leaders to follow who walk firmly upon it. Let our unity be not tied to uniformity of the external, but instead make us sisters and brothers of all colors in our unity based off of a uniformity of our values and hearts. Remove from our hearts any negative thoughts of others, and help us to never partake in acts of injustice against people of any background. Even if no one else speaks, help us to always speak against any oppression, even if it means speaking against ourselves. Love your creation through us. Be gentle to them through us. Increase them in strength through us. Give them courage through us. Help them grow through us. Endow them with confidence through us. Fill them with sincerity through us. Protect them always through us. And through us bring good and benefit to the rest of this world. Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, most merciful of those who show mercy. Let our anger be only at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that we will work for justice, equality, and peace. Let our tears shed only for those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation, and conflict, so that we will reach out our hands to comfort them and change their pain into joy. And let our successes be many, as we make a difference in this world by doing the things which others say cannot be done. For all those who have lost loved ones, bring ease to their hearts, and let every tear that they have shed raise their loved ones in rank and degree over and over again. Make those who have passed from the shuhada, Ya Rabbi, and help us to remember them always and to be a continued source of benefit for them. For our brothers and sisters in Palestine, their loved ones, their family members, and all those who are facing any type of hardship in the world at this time, we simply ask for peace. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.